Please help me welcome our Toastmaster of the evening, District 49 Director, Distinguished Toastmaster, Sepiuta Holaketuai.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual District 49 conference. And aloha! We are delighted to welcome you to District 49's very first town hall. Today, we are pleased to welcome our very own Toastmaster International President Richard E. Peck. For over 30 years, Richard was a senior member of the Network Support Division at AT&T. The Seymour, Connecticut resident led cross-functional teams to successfully deliver million-dollar high-tech projects. Outside of Toastmasters, Richard has served as president and lieutenant governor for Key 1S International, is a member of Lions Club, and also worked in various capacities with the Catholic War veterans. He is also a commissioner on a local government board. Richard is also a professionally licensed race car driver, and in his limited spare time, he can be found at the racetrack as either a driver or a spectator. A Toastmaster since 2006, Richard is a member of the Nutmeg Toastmasters Club in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and is also currently a member of Park City Toastmasters Club in Stratford, Connecticut. Please help me in welcoming the International President, Distinguished Toastmaster Richard E. Peck.
Aloha, Seppi.
Aloha. Moderating our town hall is our very own District 49 Gloria Shishido. Gloria is a distinguished Toastmaster, past international director, 2014 to 2016, past district governor 2006 to 2007, and distinguished District 49 Pathways Guide 2019. She holds a master's degree in healthcare administration from Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Gloria's Bachelor of Science degree was in medical technology. She retired from Queens Medical Center after 38 years in clinical laboratory and human resource management. Gloria also retired from the Hawaii State Center for Nursing as a project coordinator. A Toastmaster for over 20 years, Gloria is a member of Aloha, Windward Winners, Liliuokalani Toastmasters Club, and Advanced Clubs Nahoku Kai Toastmasters, Pathway Central, and Hawaii Comedy Central, which she was a club sponsor this year with club president. As district governor, she led her leadership team to a distinguished district status. As a former Toastmasters International Board of Directors member, Gloria was a working ambassador for the organization to develop and support policies and procedures to Toastmasters International. Gloria has a passion for lifelong learning and making a difference in the lives of the people she comes into contact. Please help me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Gloria Shishido.
Aloha and welcome to District 49's first town hall. And we also welcome the International President, Richard E. Peck. He has asked us to call him by his first name, Richard, and we will do so. The questions were sent in by Toastmasters, and I would like to say we are just truly honored to have you, Richard. Are we ready for the question?
Gloria, it's like table topics. Are we ever truly ready for them?
I know what you mean. So here's your first question. Briefly share your thoughts on the International President's World Tour experience.
I don't know if I could do that briefly, but I'll try. The International President's World Tour has just been an amazing journey this year. You know, when we realized that as the president, I wasn't going to be able to travel and visit districts and be able to share with them, I wanted to look at a new approach to how we can connect with our members. Gloria, you know that the pyramid in leadership in our organization is an inverted pyramid. And it seems that the farther you go in leadership, the farther you get away from members. So I wanted to find a way to be able to connect more with our members. And the World Tour was my attempt to do that. And it was meant to visit 145 clubs in 145 countries. And not just visit the club, but take on an active role in the club so that they could see that regardless of who we are as leaders, that we are members. So giving pathway speeches and getting evaluations, or being a general evaluator or a speech evaluator at the club meeting. And it's proved to be very enlightening, not only to meet members around the world, but also to start noticing that other members are also visiting these clubs. So there was one club that I visited, and I know you wanted this to be brief, but I apologize. This is something that I think has really been an amazing piece. Is you have a club that traditionally would have 15 members online, and they have this online presence. I'm there. I don't think it's because of me, although they might say it was. And you look in the participant window, and there's 100 and 110 people at that meeting, all learning the culture of that club, the culture of that country. And what a unique change to see how small the world became because of this. So, the unexpected or unanticipated outcome of the making the world closer was just amazing to me to witness. And we've gotten through 131 clubs already.
Wow, I'm impressed. And that is not all on your time zone either. It's
No.
24 hours.
Yeah, some of the 3 a.m. speeches, I think the evaluations were being generous to me, but we got through them.
I can imagine. Did you seek out leadership roles in Toastmasters at first, or were you persuaded to take on the leadership roles?
You know, I tell people when I joined Toastmasters, I wasn't even sure that there was a president. I had no idea how the organization worked. I was just looking to improve I was looking to improve my speaking skills. Who would have known it was communication I was trying to improve, right? Yeah. And I had really not sought out any leadership role, but the district governor at the time, your district directors now, contacted me because there was an area governor, area director who had stepped down, and they needed somebody to fill the spot. So I met with him, and he told me about the role the best he could, and I agreed to help. And I've been on the leadership journey ever since. I don't think it was necessarily my intention to get into leadership, but I don't believe in letting people fail when they ask you for help. So the fact that he asked me, I said yes, and the rest of it's history, I guess.
That's correct. I remember being asked as an area governor as well, and they say the rest is history.
Yes,
The
it is.
progression that we take.
Yep.
If you could change your Toastmasters journey, what would it be and why?
If I could change my Toastmasters journey, it would be to learn to ask for help sooner. I think all of us have this belief, or tend to have this belief, that we don't need to ask for help, that we have the skills, the maturity, the knowledge to do something, or that asking for help shows vulnerability and weakness. I've come to learn that asking for help actually shows wisdom, because it means I know myself. There's an introspection going on there. And I think if I would have realized that sooner, early in my district leadership role, even back at the area director role, it would have put me in a much better place moving forward. Because I think what happens is as you get comfortable in who you are and you think you're always doing the right thing, it becomes harder and harder to ask for help later on. And at some point in time, you run into a situation that you just can't overcome. And asking for help then can be a little bit too late when you should have asked for it earlier. And I think if I could have changed that, that would be the one thing I would have changed.
Awesome. All right. Have you mentored incoming leaders? And what was most rewarding to you as a mentor?
Yeah, I have mentored incoming leaders. I've mentored continuing leaders as well. And I think what the most enjoyable thing is to watch the progression from where they are when you start mentoring them and their questions and their thought processes. And after you start mentoring, seeing how wider and broader they get, and not only their approach to things, but their thinking. Because as mentors in our positions, where we see things from a much larger scale, we present the questions, we present the um, opportunity to learn from a different perspective. So when I think about mentoring, if I get mentoring from my club or my district, the mentoring I'm getting is based on that, based on the district or based on the club. When you get mentors such as you as a past international director, me as a president, we're seeing things and we can prevent such a unique dynamic to those individuals that now their thought process and their scope becomes so much larger. And just to watch that evolution and thought process in individuals is just amazing. And watch the shift in confidence. It's unique. It's very unique.
I know it's wonderful to see the transformation in the proteges.
Yep.
And our Pathways Mentoring Program is an excellent standard or program to really delve in and use in the mentoring program.
Gloria, I just want to go back to the mentoring
Sure.
right now for a
Sure.
minute, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Only because mentoring right now has got a shift in it, where what we used to think about mentoring would be get a mentor at my club or get a mentor at my district level. Maybe if I know a director or somebody, I can get mentoring there. But now the world has opened up, and it's very possible to get mentors from outside your district, outside your country,
Yes.
which was not possible prior to the situation we're in now. So I think now becomes an opportunity to really look farther. Also, we need to realize that it's not just one mentor for everything. It might be a mentor for leadership, it might be a mentor for communication, it might be a mentor for something else. But you can have multiple mentors helping you to get to where you need to be on multiple facets.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. What is the greatest leadership challenge you faced as international president?
2021. So March 11th, 2020 till now, and I use March 11th because that's when the pandemic was declared, till now has been an unbelievable challenge. And I say that because, and I'll say it for SEPI and I'll say it for all our district leaders, our region advisors. I know Jessica Allen is on the call right now. Nobody has ever had to lead in this environment. So nobody is there to be able to reach out to and say, how do you approach these things? Because there's been no experience. We are essentially trying to forge our way through this dark time and learn what's needed. So every district leader, every region advisor, every director who comes out of this situation now, every club officer is going to have a unique set of skills that no one before them had. And we're hoping no one after them has to have them. Right?
That's true.
But think about the skills, think about the uniqueness of this time. And I like to flip that statement a little bit of what is the greatest challenge you've had to say, what is the greatest opportunity you've had? Because if we constantly look at challenge and we don't look at opportunity, we're constantly going to run into walls and we're constantly throw our hands up. So think about the opportunities that exist because of the situation, not the challenges that exist because of it. And I think if we do that, it'll change our focus and it'll allow us to look at things so much differently. And we won't feel like we're being beaten down, but we'll feel like we're beating the odd.
Absolutely. It is changing your perspective on how to look at what's out there. Absolutely. Thank you for that. What would you suggest to members who are interested in leadership opportunities?
Seek them out. Don't be afraid. If you wait for somebody to ask you, your opportunity may be overlooked. If you really want to seek out a leadership opportunity, reach out to people and let them know. Reach out to individuals for mentorship before you go into that role so that you understand what the role is.
Hmm.
It's funny, I often get this question, Gloria, that says, if I wanted to be president, what would I do? And my response is, don't focus on being the president. If you're a club officer, be the best club officer you can be. If you're a district officer, be the best district officer you can be. If you're too busy focusing on 4 or 5 roles down the road, you're not going to do the best you can in the role you are now. So be the best you can be in the role you're currently in. But don't wait for people to ask, because they may not know that you're interested in being a leader. You know, and your opportunity may be overlooked.
Absolutely.
And then you can't blame people to say, well, I wanted to be in this role, but nobody asked me. Well, did anyone know you wanted to be in that role?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So very true. I'm going to change the focus a little bit.
Sure.
Are there any major changes to the bylaws that we should know about?
Nope.
Nope.
Not this year.
All right.
Nope. Yeah. There's been, I know last year was an interesting year. Thank you all for that. No, we have not made any major changes this year that would cause for a vote to change bylaws or anything else. So the business meeting at the convention this year should not have all that all that heartburn going on for those of us who are either leading that session, myself, or those of you who have to vote at that session.
Yes, that was very contentious at times.
It just, it was interesting because it showed the difficulty with being able to run that type of meeting over a virtual platform.
Yes.
And it's going to be interesting for me to see how districts fare this year, because they've got to go through the same type of thing. They're going to go through votings. They're going to go through realignments, and how they handle it.
Right. All right. Here, describe the Toastmasters International Global Advertising Strategies and how can individual clubs reap from the advertising campaign?
Yeah. So we are a little bit delayed in our global advertising. The pandemic essentially put a lot of halt on things. We had, at the end of 2020, at the beginning of in January 2020, had started to increase our global marketing to a number of countries and districts at that time to get a feel for what marketing looked like in those regions, those countries, because marketing is not a one-size-fits-all platform. When the pandemic hit, there was a greater focus placed on our members, our clubs, our districts, and ensuring that they were safe and could manage what they were doing. So we had to step back from the global advertising just a little bit. Since then, it has started to ramp back up because we're starting to get into a little bit more stabilized arena. We're not 100% there, I understand that, but we're a little bit more stabilized. And then once we get the input from that and can make some analysis, we'll be able to figure out best how districts can benefit from it, and then how that can be filtered down to clubs. Now, there will be some new PSAs coming out, public service announcements. Gloria, when was the last time we had a public service announcement from Toastmasters? It's been a long, long time, right? There will be some new public service announcements coming out that clubs will be able to use to help promote Toastmasters. So that will be a non-cost, essentially, marketing for them. But until we can start to really understand how marketing is going to work, how to make it beneficial for everybody, I wouldn't want to say, well, this is how clubs are going to be able to benefit from it. And clubs have their own uniquenesses. And I think if districts can start marketing it from a district standpoint and trickle it down to the clubs, it will be so much easier. I think we need to figure out better ways of providing training, though, to our marketing individuals, to our PRMs or VPMs, because those are the individual that, regardless of whether it's advertising or public relations or marketing, those are the individuals who have to take charge of it. So figuring out how to train them better, I think, should be something we need to focus on.
So here's a question for you. Is there a possibility there will be a membership dues increase? And if so, when?
So I will honestly tell you that there has been no discussions with regards to membership dues.
Awesome.
So if there will be one, I will not be president at that time. And it's very likely I will not be immediate past president at that time. But there has been no discussions about that.
Awesome. That's good, because I'm in 6 clubs.
Yeah, I know that'd be difficult for you. But thank you, Gloria. Thank you. You may have helped keep us afloat this year.
Yeah.
I know Seppi appreciates that. Some of those funds are going into the district funds this year so that the district can function.
Oh, okay. Our next question was the most asked question. It was amazing. So many people asked this question. When will non-officer members pay their membership dues online by credit card or other digital devices?
I would love to optimistically say by the end of this year. It may be delayed a little bit, but I would like to say by the end of this year. We've been talking about it for a number of years now. The thing of it is that there's still going to be and the board talked about this at one of the board briefings a couple of years back, that even if a member pays their dues online without any interaction of having to get credit cards to the district team or the club team, a club officer is still going to have to approve those dues. So Gloria, you could pay it, but a treasurer or president may have to go in and to approve that. The reason being is we don't want to have members just paying dues to clubs and they're not really members there, right? So we don't want to build that paper membership. So you pay a club to Nutmeg Toastmasters. I love Gloria Shishido, but I know she's not a member of the club. I'm not going to approve it. However, if you just were able to go into Toastmasters International and pay it, it would automatically come to us, right? So we have to have that. We have to have that stopgap in there that prevents that paper membership issue. And, we know in the past, we've seen it in the past where all of a sudden a club gets a bunch of members. The club doesn't even know they got the members. And we can't have that. We have to avoid that. So I'm hoping, I would be optimistic in saying by the end of the 2021 year that we would have that, and that we'll move forward at that point. But there will still be some safeguards in place to make sure that we don't do anything foolish.
Okay, awesome. That's enlightening. I understand what you're saying. We're going to go towards the subject of how have online meetings affected Toastmasters International membership?
So I don't think it's affected it from a negative standpoint, and it's not the reason we're losing members. I think we're losing members for a lot of other reasons. Individuals being out of work, corporations closing, not supporting clubs going forward. So I don't think the online meeting has affected that portion of it. I think the online portion has added a little bit of more fatigue maybe to members because we're used to being on a call 7-8 hours a day for our work life. And then we get on another call for another 1-2 hours at night for our club. So the fatigue may be there a little bit. Also, are the club meetings fun? when you go on Zoom. And I've seen club meetings, I've been to club meetings that have just been a blast, to attend. And then you've been to some of those ones that are hybrid style meetings, and there's the connectivity is poor, the technology is poor. And it's like, wow, nobody is going to stay for this environment. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So again, I don't think it's causing us the drop in membership compared to, is it causing a lack of user experience, good user experience? I do think though that, and I've said this a number of times I've spoken, that the online format may be causing a risk to some clubs, in that, let's say I join a club in Hawaii. Let's say I join one of your clubs, Gloria. Now I've paid my dues for the next 6 months. All of a sudden, your club goes to meeting in person, right? You technically now have to be a hybrid club
Mhm,
because I've joined from another state
mhm.
and you need to provide me a service. Well, what about clubs that aren't prepared for that, that don't have the resources, don't have the technology? Do they now risk losing members because they're not providing the same type of service? So I think that there's going to be the challenge of the future.
Right. And I think some of my clubs have started talking about that. If we go hybrid, and some who enjoy the online, because we don't have to drive across town, park your car, pay fees, and attend the meeting, even though we love the interaction, it is like, this is getting kind of comfortable. And we can make our meetings just as fun, just
Yep.
on Zoom or whatever platform you're on.
That's right.
Which leads me to this next question.
Mhm.
As many new charters are 100% online, will
Mhm.
Toastmasters International allow clubs to be online virtually and remain in the districts?
So I'm going to I'm going to correct one thing there. We haven't had a lot of clubs that have chartered as 100% online. Uh, we thought we were going to have that when we offered that opportunity, but the numbers haven't proven to be that yet, where they said they want to be 100% online. More clubs that are chartering in a hybrid approach to it, but not chartering 100% online. However, the board did decide that a club that charters as a 100% online club can also choose to be appointed to a district. So that is already in place. So you might form a 100% online club in Hawaii that
Mhm.
wants to be part of District 49, and that's perfectly okay. Um, we have seen a percentage of the clubs that have formed as 100% online clubs that don't want to be part of a district. They still want to be undistricted clubs for whatever reason.
Oh,
But the I th- I truly believe that the reason that we decided to make this change was because we had club growth directors and saying, I really want to charter clubs, but if they're online, I'm not going to get credit for them because online clubs traditionally are not districted clubs, right? That was the policy. And we realized that, hey, you know what? If you're a district officer and you're working hard to charter a club, you should get credit for it.
mhm.
So why not have it assigned to your district? It becomes interesting, though, to the district when they start doing a district alignment on where they're going to put clubs and all that, because it doesn't have a physical address per se. It should have a physical address for the president or whoever's receiving the correspondence, but that becomes the challenge at that point.
Mhm. I'm going to state this next question. When Toastmaster International begin to adjust some of, when will Toastmaster International begin to adjust some of the rules and policies to accommodate our virtual environment?
Yeah, so I don't know what that statement means. I
Mm,
don't know what we're referring to in roles and policies. If we're talking about 100% online clubs being able to be districted, we just covered that. If we're talking about what does a hybrid club look like in the future? Well, traditionally, we said a hybrid club had to have a majority of its members physically located in a physical location, and the smaller number of members could be joining online through whatever the technology platform
Right.
was. The board of directors updated that policy this year, which was announced, that a club can now define what hybrid means to the club. So maybe your club meets 4 times a month, an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 4 times a month. And you decide as a club, we're going to have 2 meetings in person, 100% in person, and then we'll have 2 meetings 100% online. Well, that is technically a hybrid club nowadays because it's a combination of in person and online. But we are now allowing the club to define what that means. As long as we're not just doing 100% online meetings, every meeting we have, then we can define the hybrid side of it. So that restriction has been removed.
Got it. Is a new club district officer position being created or considered for technical support like Zoom online environment?
Well, I think that's an interesting question to ask. Uh, and then my follow-up question to that would be, is this a position that we're looking to have as a credited position like a president or VP, or is it a officer, just an officer position to have an officer position? Clubs right now have the ability to create their own officer roles, and that's within their bylaws, within the club constitution. If it's looking to be a credited role, well, that's something completely different. And then the board would have to define what that looks like, what the criteria is to have that role as a credited role. Right now, there's nothing that's being looked at to consider that and make that a part of a club philosophy. Um, and I know that there are clubs out there that do have that. But again, not every club is going to need it, right? Because not every
Mhm.
club is either going to be online or hybrid. So what that looks like, how we give credit for it needs to be determined. But again, a club can define that right now. It's just not a credited position.
Got it. Got it. Here's a broad question. What can we expect in the future as a member?
Well, I think you're going to find new levels of support from districts and clubs for sure, because as we've gone into this online approach, we've had to find new ways to support everybody. I think you're going to find a closer community of Toastmasters since the world has become a lot smaller, as we've seen. I also think you're going to notice that the board will tend to react. I don't want to say react because reactionary is not the right way to do it, but we'll be able to address items a lot quicker in the future because we've seen that we can do that. We've realized that there are some things out there that we weren't prepared for and had to adjust quickly. I think one of the things we're also going to see is what is truly of value to members uh, to help them with their journey. And I mean that from the standpoint of this year we offered a free path to everybody. Essentially, we gave everyone a free path towards DTM if they wanted it. Um, However, the initial response to it wasn't as great as we thought it was going to be. And it wasn't until the deadline struck that everyone, for those of you who saw the website was down there for a few days, well, thank you. That was everybody going in at the last minute to sign up for their free path and bringing the website down. But it looked like no one was really interested in that at the beginning. And it wasn't until the deadline occurred that we saw all the uptake on that. But trying to understand what is important to our members, I think you'll also see more survey style engagement with the members to understand what it is that their need is. And possibly more interaction with the districts to understand what the district need is. When we go back to the world tour just for a minute, my philosophy is if you're going to lead an organization, if you're going to lead a corporation, whatever you're going to lead, you need to understand your members. You need to understand who you're leading. And this is allowing me to get down to the club level, something that hasn't been done before,
Mhm.
to be as a president to understand our members, right? And that's, let's be honest, that's our organization, is our members. And I think that's what all of us need to do. And I think we as a organization need to find more ways to stay engaged at that level.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
It's been about 4 years since Pathways was rolled out. How is the overall acceptance of the program? How has, I can't read, how has the overall acceptance of the program been accepted by members? And what has been the impact on membership?
Well, that's funny because there's two dynamics when we look at Pathways. There are the members who have joined since Pathways,
Mhm.
and so that was the only thing they knew, and they have that. Uh, they're joining, they're taking on Pathways. That's all there is to it. Um, there's the other side, those who have been around for a little bit longer, who remember the traditional program and now the Pathways program. And it's a little bit more of a difficulty in the migration from those individuals who know the traditional program into the Pathways program, because they're comparing two items as if they're apple to apple, and they're
And they're
not.
not.
Uh, right. um, so that that has been a little bit more of a challenge in getting those individuals to migrate, as opposed to getting the new individuals to migrate. The other spot where that becomes a challenge is brand new clubs. Pathways is Pathways, it's all they know. Members coming into clubs where the club hasn't been exactly accepting of the Pathways program. Now there's nobody to help mentor that new member into Pathways. And now that new member is suffering
Mhm.
because there's nobody there guiding them. Additionally, when we look at club coaches, a club coach going into a club that's struggling needs to be a member who's actively engaged in Pathways, because they need to be able to help that club migrate into that process and help the new members as they're growing the club be able to move into the Pathways program. I don't, I know everyone's heard people say, well, if I'm going to leave because it's Pathways. I haven't seen any analysis that said anyone has had a mass exodus because of Pathways. They've had mass exoduses because of something else.
Mhm.
But if you can find something to hang it on, you'll find something to hang it on.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's not Pathways.
Mhm.
Dan Rex, our CEO, tells a great story of an individual who he spoke to, who said they didn't like Pathways, wasn't going to move into it, not at all. And he followed up with the question, well, what is it about Pathways that you don't like? Well, I don't like the computer. I don't like the technology. I don't this. I don't like that. And Dan finally got to the point, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm an IT professional. Well, guess what? Then technology is not the problem here. Something else is, right? But you can hang your hat on the technology side of it. You can hang your hat on something.
I know you touched upon this, and our adoption rate here in District 49 is 75.46% for members, and club officers rate is 90.34%.
Yep.
Continue to have problems with the seasoned Toastmasters in embracing Pathways
Yep.
and getting started. How have other districts addressed this issue?
Well, I would say you're probably rating one of the highest in adoption rates. So it may be something that we need to have other districts talk to you about how you're doing it. I think all districts are having that challenge, though. Great to see club officers and district officers that high a percentage. That's wonderful to see. When we start looking at the percentages of not adoption, you can't just look at the number, right? Because the number can tell you anything or nothing. So what is the adoption rate based on? Is it 70% is seasoned members and we've got 30% new members that aren't into it because they're coming in and they're not joining right away, they're not getting involved right away, or is it we've got all our new members coming in, they're joining Pathways right away. By the way, I know that's not happening, but it sounds good. And then we've got some of our seasoned members that are keeping that percentage down. I think we really need to look at the number in a little bit more detail to determine where that piece really is. For the seasoned members who are not moving over, Pathways is not going away.
No,
It's not going away.
no.
So if you want to continue your communication and leadership skills, Pathways is the program that's sitting in front of us. And Pathways will continue to evolve over time. It will
Absolutely.
continue to evolve over time.
And we've seen it from the very beginning. It has evolved. It's made it easier for a lot of the access. People has this mental block sometimes regarding what's the next step.
Yeah.
When you think of training for Pathways, the onus is on whom? The mentor of the club or the VPE? Who really has that onus to teach Pathways to that new member?
Yeah, so I don't think it's the club mentor, because when I think of a club mentor, I think of somebody who's forming a new club and is a club mentor at that point. In a brand new club instance, yes, it's up to the mentors and sponsors to provide the club that knowledge base and offer them guidance to get in there. When we talk about an existing club, a new member in an existing club, I think the onus falls on two people. One is the VPE, and not from the standpoint of having to push that member through it, but one, giving them the ability to get the access to it. I think there's a disconnect sometimes, and we have a new member come in. The VP says, okay, you're going to access Pathways. This is how you log into the website. This is what you do. And then we expect that they do it without any guidance on it. And we all know that there are challenges to Pathways. It's not a simple click here, do this, click here sometimes. So does the member become frustrated and just gives up? Don't know. But I think the second side to that is many clubs have mentors assigned to their new members. It should be that mentor that's helping to ensure that a club member is in the program, understands the program, offers them the guidance that's needed. Some things that clubs have done that I've witnessed that is very, very spot on for this is you have a new member or you have several new members and you do your new member induction at the club meeting, right? And you set one meeting aside to do that. Well, at the same time, the VPE or the VPM brings the laptop in with them. They've installed the new member, they've inducted them, and they go right to the laptop with them and they get them registered right away in Pathways. So that member is now ready to run right at the beginning, as opposed to saying, okay, you're now a member, go to Toastmasters.org, log in here and work your way through the Pathways program.
Yeah. We found that to be beneficial to sit down with that new member right away and get them into the path.
I was at a district conference a couple years ago, and they had essentially a Pathways bar, kind of like your IQ bar for Apple, where during the breakouts, in between sessions, they had several laptops set up with Pathways SMEs.
Nice.
That if you were having problems, you would come over to their computer and they lead you right through the program, get you right into Pathways.
Awesome. Yep. I think that's a nice thing to have. Most definitely. How often does TI expect to produce a new path? And when is the next new path scheduled for release?
Yeah, that I honestly don't know. I would like to see us come out with a new path sometime in the future. I have a couple thoughts on what it could be, but right now, the question always is how much change can an organization handle? How much change can our members handle? And when you think about what we've had to go through this last year, how much more change are they willing to take, and does it make a benefit to them? But I think as we get more feedback from our members on things that they would like, as we look at the world ahead of us and what it's going to need, what not only our members are going to need, what they're going to need for their career, I think we'll see paths that start to get developed towards that. Yeah, but it takes time to do it. It takes time and it takes money. And anyone who's ever dealt with IT and those type of programs know that it's not something that's done just overnight. Sounds easy, but it's not.
Not a lot of thought,
Yeah.
especially when you have a competence-based learning program. You have
Yeah.
to really think through that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're gonna
You
get
know,
off.
I've worked for companies where they use what they call the break fix technology. So they send it out broken and they fix it on the back end.
Oh, no.
We really can't do that in this environment. We just really can't rush something out, because we'll know right away. We'll hear from our members if it's not right, as we should. So we just need to make sure it's right when we send it out.
Awesome. Okay, so here's a question Greg Ching has been waiting for. Do
All
we
right.
expect to have an in-person international convention in the near future? And if so, what city will it be?
Well, I really hope that we have an in-person convention in the near future. I miss seeing each and every one of you. Um, which city it will be, well, I'm sure has yet to be determined based on regulations for the local governments. You know, here in the United States, things are starting to loosen up a little bit, uh, but in other countries,
Yes,
not so much.
not so much.
And we heard that tonight from Alicia Curtis that Australia is kind of going back into a lockdown. We know from India that
Yes.
that country is back in lockdown. The UK wants to open up travel between the United States and UK now because they're missing out on all that tourist revenue.
But yes,
I hope it's soon. I would love to see it within the next year or so, but I also think that there are going to be a subset of members that aren't ready to travel yet, even when everything is clear, and we'll have to look at that.
yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm hoping we get district conferences back in person in a relatively short period of time. This is the one thing I was truly looking forward to this year, was
That's
to be able,
president.
as president, was to be able to travel. And
Oh,
that unfortunately didn't happen. But um, I tend to not look at the challenge. I look at the opportunity, and I've been able to do so much more this year as a result.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Here's a speech contest question. Will speech contests continue to be virtual up to the region semifinals?
Well, I think that's going to depend on what the future looks like, as far as if we start meeting in person again. But I think we'll also have to look at that from two sides. Even if we were to have an in-person piece, what do we do with individuals who aren't comfortable? Um, if you have if we'll go back to the 100% online club. So you have an online club assigned to your district. District 49 has an 100% online club. How do we handle them in a speech contest? Do we make them show up in person at a district when they're 100% online, or do we have to make some accommodation there? So there are so many uniquenesses and variations right now with what we have in clubs, that something that we're going to have to look at very seriously going forward.
I have a couple of more questions. Are you willing to stay on a little bit longer?
For you, Gloria, and for Seppi, absolutely.
Okay, then Elmer, I'm going to ask you to take the timer out of the stoplight. Thank you. Here we go. There are not too many more.
Okay.
And the question is this: Toastmasters has entered into an agreement with Rotary International. How is that partnership working?
Okay, so we've entered into an alliance, not a partnership. Rotary came to us, asked us to develop an educational program for them, which we have. So their members are actively engaged in a education program that we have developed for them. The alliance base at the club level as to whether clubs are actively engaged, Toastmasters clubs are actively engaged with Rotary clubs and vice versa, took a little bit of a back seat during this time because we were still in the formative stages, in my opinion, as to what that looked like. Do we send Toastmasters members to Rotary clubs and do evaluations on their speeches? Do they come to our clubs and we give them evaluations? All well and good when we're meeting in person and we can define that. But when the world took a decision that it wanted to, throw a wrench in the works, all the clubs started doing things different. All the organizations started doing things differently. So I think there's been a lot more interest now that things are starting to stabilize than there have been in the past year when everyone was just more focused on our clubs, our members, and moving forward. But I think Rotary definitely got what they were looking for from us and that they are moving forward with that. I don't think there was ever the anticipation that we would gain members from Rotary, that Rotary would gain members from us. That was just going to be a nice to have if it happened. But it was more, hey, we're the experts in communication. Let us provide them the skills that they were asking for.
I know before we had the lockdown, when it was announced that the Alliance would go in with Rotary, I know our small club on the Windward side had several meetings with Rotary, and it was very productive and we enjoyed each other's company. And then we had the lockdown, so everything stopped. But we're starting to build relationships, and I hope we will go back to it one day. Most definitely.
There are a lot of opportunities coming up. I know Rotary is having their district conferences or regional conferences, however they define them, and they're asking for a lot of individuals, a number of individuals from Toastmasters to speak at those events. So they are still actively involved with us when it comes to that.
Are there any other alliances that Toastmasters is looking at? Or is that on hold till we'll get up to par?
Yeah, I don't know of any right off the top of my head. It's not that we go out and seek them out. It's that others come to us looking for our skill set that we can provide them. So I know Kiwanis has approached in the past, Lions has approached in the past, but I don't know that they truly knew what they wanted when they approached us. So those things are still, if they're in the works, and I don't believe they are at this moment, because I think everything as a result of the pandemic got put in its own place. But there needs to be a definition of what they're looking for so that we can see if we can accommodate that need. But there are a lot of organizations out there. There definitely are. It's just that what their mission is totally different than what our mission is.
Absolutely.
And so it's not like we're going to combine those pieces. It's more looking at understanding what it is that they're trying to get to their members.
All right. Describe the most memorable and rewarding moment to date as president of Toastmasters International.
I don't know that there's any one moment that I would say this was the key moment, because every time I think there's a key moment, something else happens. And I think it has nothing to do with being president, because that's just a title. And I tell people, titles don't make people. People make titles. So you can't have your title leading you around. And Gloria, I know that you've had this experience. I know a lot of people have had this experience on the call. You give a presentation, you make a speech to somebody or at a club, and it's just a speech that you've done, and you've probably done it 100 times before. And you get a message later saying, well, thank you. That was so inspirational. It just really kept me engaged and makes me really want to continue on my journey. And it's like, well, I didn't think that was going to be it, but I'm glad it was. And the world tour, I think, has given more opportunity to that, because clubs and districts think that the board of directors is somewhere out here, separated from the rest of us, right? And oh, we'd never have the opportunity to see a president at our club, let alone we're the only club in the country and the president is here. And it's just nice to be able to make one little bit of an impact on somebody. And I've been getting more and more of those every day. That I go and give a speech, and I hope it's a good speech, but then you get those messages afterwards, and it makes an impact on you. It really makes an impact on you.
Awesome. I know you're making an impact on us as well. Are there any final messages you'd like to share? I know it's awfully late for you. I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Yeah. So the message I'd like to share is with each of you, is to thank you for what you've continued to do this year, that you've continued to stay strong, even though I know things got difficult. They got difficult for everybody. And occasionally it may seem like it was just the darkness, but you have leaders here that are shining a light into that darkness, and they haven't given up. They haven't given up in the most difficult and challenging time in the history of this organization. And neither have you. And it's not only that you haven't given up on yourself, but you haven't given up on others.
Mm.
We talk about the two pillars of our organization when you think about it is communication and leadership. The underlying pillar, in my opinion, is our desire to help one another, to help others reach a little bit farther than they think they can, to overcome their barriers. And even when things got tough this year, each and every one of you was continuing to help others achieve more than they could, helping those individuals develop self-confidence and self-esteem. And if you can do that in times like these, can you imagine how unstoppable you are when things are just going great? And that's a testament to you as members, as individuals, a testament to your resilience, your desire, your drive. And if someone was to ask me what the greatest thing I witnessed this year during my presidency was, it would be the heart of our members and their ability to continue strong in the face of adversity. So I would just say, continue being who you are, knowing that you're being appreciated.
Well, we are truly honored and privileged to have you here this evening, Richard, and we thank you very much. Back to you, Seppi.
All right, thank you so much, President Richard and Gloria. We enjoyed your message, and I'm such a big fan of Town Hall because of Toastmasters. I mean, before it was like, what is a town hall? I'm from little old Waipahu Sugar Mill, like what's that? And then when you go to this convention, you understand you're learning all these protocols, but we have our own town hall and we can ask Richard all these questions. So I'm so excited that he listened to us and answered all our questions. And it's nice to meet the president, right? Someone that's way up here, like he said, he comes to us, right? Virtual. So thank you so much, President Richard. And we have this beautiful certificate that we'll virtually have here for you. So thank you once again for being with us on this town hall committee meeting. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Seppi. It was my pleasure. Great to hear the good questions from your membership.
They had some tough questions, so good on you team. Make him think. He's the president. Make him think. Put him to work. Nah, I'm kidding. Richard is really cool. Like most people don't know, when we go to these conventions, we get to meet them, and there's these bond. We get little one-on-ones, and you get to see, like, man, they're so humble. I mean, you think international president, right? And then, yeah, they're really humble. And Richard is super humble. So I always appreciate his kind words and his laughter. So thank you. Okay, so I have here. So in the chat, you will see a link that I believe Corey will drop in. So please fill in what is it? It's a feedback form. You know, we want to know what you liked, what you really liked, and what you really, really liked. So we want to know all the good, the not so good, you know, so we can be a convention, a conference committee that can help put your needs in our conference. You know, we want to make sure you enjoy this conference. So please go ahead and do that. Fill that form for us. So tomorrow is our business meeting. We encourage all presidents and VPEs to attend. Credentials opens at 4:30. We close at 5:20 for credentials, and then we start immediately at 5:30 and we begin our meeting. We also want to remind everyone to come back, everyone, on Saturday. We start at 9 o'clock. I know this time you get to hear his keynote speech. So our keynote speaker will be, of course, President Richard Peck, and he will deliver a speech that you think Bobby opened super amazing well. Is that a word? Super amazing well? Well, it is now. It's a new phrase. Listen to Richard. Richard is gonna, fast pace. He drive cars fast. So come on Saturday and listen to his keynote speech for all of us, as well as we're gonna give awards to our DTMs, and then the corporate awards. We're gonna highlight Hawaii State Federal Credit Union and Nordic PCL, as well as announce the 2021 to 2022 District 49 elected leaders. And of course, the speech contest winners will finally be announced. So all the way till then. But at this time, I'm going to give the voice over to Kim for our photo op.
Yes, thank you, Seppi. Thank you again also, Richard and Gloria.